Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Preparing for interviews can be challenging. You need to go to multiple places to collate all the questions relevant to a particular topic or a technology. If you are a Java developer looking forward to crack your next interview, then this video is for you. In this video, we will be discussing about the most commonly asked and the tricky interview questions in Java 8. So, we will be discussing 25 interview questions in Java 8, among which few are most commonly asked in any Java interview and few questions are trickiest. Stay till the end as I have got a surprise question for you. Let us get started. If you are a developer with 1+ years experience, then the most common and the first interview question that you will get if you sit in front of the interviewer is, what are the features of Java 8? Even still now, when I go in for evaluation, this is the first question that I get. Okay, what are the features of Java 8? Default and static methods that were introduced in interfaces, functional interfaces, Lambda expressions, datetime API and streams API. Let us get started with the interview questions. What are functional interfaces in Java 8? Functional interfaces are interfaces which has only one single abstract method. They are also called as SAM interfaces. Functional interfaces also can have default and static method. This is an important question which usually you will get in interviews. I also got the same question when I was getting evaluated for a particular corporate. When he said what are functional interfaces, I told they are interfaces with one single abstract method. The next question was, can functional interfaces have default and static methods? The answer is yes. Okay. Functional interfaces may or may not be annotated with @functional interface annotation. This annotation is especially for the compiler to understand that this is an interface which should have only one single abstract method. If you try to add more than one, it will give you a compiler error. Name few functional interfaces. Before Java 8, the functional interfaces that were available are runnable, which is used in multi-threaded applications. Comparable from java.lang package. This is used for sorting. Comparator from java.util package. This is also used for sorting. Then from Java 8, we have few more functional interfaces. Consumer, supplier, predicate, function, by predicate, by function, by consumer. Okay. This is an example of a functional interface. One abstract method. It can have any number of default methods and any number of static methods. Next question. What are Lambda expressions in Java? Lambda expressions are anonymous functions which supports functional programming in Java. Lambda expressions are like methods without return type, access specifier, method name. Just the parameter list followed by arrow followed by method name. Lambda expressions makes the code writing simple, short and readable. Lambda expressions can be used only with functional interfaces. Okay, this is how we write the syntax for Lambda expressions. Let me show you few examples of Lambda expression. If the functional interface has only one method without parameters, it can be implemented in this manner. If your logic is in only one single line, no need of curly braces, just the logic that you want to add. In our case, it is println, so directly we have added println. This is for a method which has one parameter. This is for a method which has two parameters. If you are having only one single line and if the method is returning some value, you don't have to add the return statement. No need of curly braces. It is just enough to pass the logic. So in this case, it can be A comma B arrow A star B. You don't even have to pass the data type. Okay, we'll move on to the next question. What happens if you modify a local variable inside Lambda? This is a tricky question. Lambda expressions can be implemented in the same place where you are calling it. This lambda expressions will be written within a method. Suppose say you are having a local variable within a method, and if you are trying to modify the value, what will happen? This will give a compiler error. Why? Because by default all the variables inside a method are final. If you are trying to modify a variable inside a method, then it will throw compiler error. Local variables are by default final. You can't modify. Next, what is the use of default methods and interfaces? Default methods were introduced in Java 8. The purpose of default methods is to add new functionality to an existing interface without breaking the contract. This also supports backward compatibility. If you notice, in older interfaces like comparator and comparable, few default methods are added. This means they support backward compatibility. If you are writing an interface with two methods, later on if you want to provide a common functionality across multiple implementation classes, you can use default methods. Default methods can be overridden. Default methods are by default public. Okay, this is about default method. Here I have an interface bonus calculator which is having two default methods. You cannot write any concrete method without default keyword. What will happen if two interfaces have the same default method names and a class implements both the interfaces? This is a tricky question. Usually this is asked in interviews. In this case, the compilation fails. I have a class, I am trying to implement two interfaces which are having the same default methods, means it throws diamond behavior. To avoid that, Java makes the compilation fail. So, it is mandatory that the implementation class should override the default method that is available in the interfaces. Here is the example. I have got two interfaces. One is bonus calculator, the other one is allowance calculator. Both are having the same abstract method. That is not an issue at all. Both are having the same default method name, that is policy type. Employee details is the class which is implementing both the interfaces. If I don't implement policy type, then I will get a compiler error. To avoid that, it is mandatory that the default method should be implemented in the implementation class. And also, what should I do if I want to call the default method of bonus calculator? The syntax is bonus calculator dot super dot method name. So it is bonus calculator dot super dot policy type. Similarly, if I want to call the policy type method of allowance calculator, it is allowance calculator dot super dot policy type. Here you can see this. We will move on to the next question. What is the use of static methods and interfaces? Static methods are used to provide a common functionality across all implementation classes. The static methods can be called only using the interface name. The static methods cannot be overridden. Okay. This is an example of using static method. Just like how you have used the default keyword, here you need to use the static keyword. I always get one interview question. What is the difference between default method and static method and when to use them? So, let us see that question. This is a tricky question. Static methods. Whenever you want to provide common functionality across all the implementation classes, use only static methods. Whenever you want to add a new functionality to an existing interface, or you want to provide backward compatibility to an existing interface, plus you want the implementation classes to override and implement it to give their own functionality, use default methods. So, default methods are used for providing new functionality to an existing interface or to provide backward compatibility. Static methods cannot be overridden. Default methods can be overridden. Static methods can be called only using the interface name. Default methods can be called using the object of the implementation class. Again I am repeating, default methods are used for backward compatibility and for adding new functionality to an existing interface. We will move on to the next question. What are streams in Java 8? A stream represents a sequence of elements that supports both parallel and aggregation operation. A stream is an abstraction for processing a collection of values. Abstraction in the sense, most of the operations that we have been doing on a collection or a list or an array can be done easily with the help of streams, because streams perform the underlying operation that is required. It is enough that we call the appropriate methods. Streams can be created from collections, arrays or iterators. Streams does not store its element. The stream operations does not change their source. We also have specialized streams for primitive data types like int stream, long stream, double stream. We will move on to the next question. How to create streams from an array? There are two methods for creating streams from an array. Either you can use stream.off or you can use arrays.stream. Even if you call streams.off method, internally the streams.off method calls arrays.stream method only. Okay, this is an example for that. How do you create streams from list? The method is .stream. This will create a sequential stream. If you want to create a parallel stream, then the method is .parallel stream. That I have not given over here. What is the return type of this? In this case, the return type will be a stream of string. In this case also, the return type will be a stream of string. What are the difference between intermediate and terminal operations in stream? First, we will discuss what are intermediate operations, what are terminal operations, and then we will see the difference. Intermediate operations. Intermediate operations are operations in which the input to the method is also a stream. The output from the method is also a stream. Few methods are limit, skip, map, filter, sorted, concat. These operations are called as lazy operations. They will be called only when you call a terminal operation. Okay. What are terminal operations? Terminal operations are operations in which the input to a method is a stream. The output from a method returns a result. The result can be a collection, or it can be one single value, or it can be printed directly. That is, you can call for each to print the data directly. You can call toList method to convert it back into a list. You can call find first to return an optional value. Okay. See the difference. Intermediate operations always return a new stream. Terminal operations always return a result. The input to both are streams only. Few methods of intermediate operation are map, filter, sorted, limit. Few terminal operations are for each, collect and count. Terminal operations are lazy operations. Only when you invoke the terminal operations, the intermediate operations will be executed and the flow will continue. This is just like only when you open the tap, the water gushes from the pipeline out of the tap. Okay, we will move on to the next question. What is the difference between map and flat map in streams? This is a most commonly asked interview question. Without this question, the interview never ends. What is a map? Map is a method which takes function as a parameter. Function is a functional interface. It takes an input of one type and converts it into an output of same type or another type. This is passed as parameter in map. So, map transforms elements in one type into the same type or another type. Suppose if I am passing a string, I can convert the string into uppercase, or I can just get the length of the string. Map is used for transforming elements. Example of map is given over here. In this case, the input to a map is a string. The output from a map also is a string only. What is the use of flat map? Flat map is used with nested collection. It is used for flattening a stream into single stream. Let us see an example of flat map. Here we have got a list of employee. This is a nested collection. Arrays.asList, which has two elements. The first element is a list which has again two elements. The second element is also a list which has again two elements. Now directly when I call stream, I will get stream of list of employee. In the previous case it will be stream of employee, but now here it is stream of list of employee. The list of employee goes as block. That is, this goes as the first block, this goes as the second block. Now I need to flatten it. That is, take it and send it one by one. So for that we are using flat map. If I use flat map, then I can flatten the multiple stream into a single stream. If you want to learn about map and flat map in detail, I will share the link of that above. You can watch it from there. We will move on to the next question. What happens if you try to use a stream after a terminal operation? Once you call a terminal operation, this means the stream is already consumed. If you try to use the stream again, it will throw illegal state exception. Stream has already been operated upon or closed. We will move on to the next question. What is the difference between find first and find any in streams? Find first. Find first returns the first element in sequential order. When you are working with parallel streams, you can guarantee the order if you are using find first, but the process may be slow. Find any. Find any may return any element when you are working with parallel streams. When you are working with parallel streams, if you are using find any, it is optimized for processing, but it does not guarantee any order. In the previous case, it guarantees order. Here, it does not guarantee any order. We will move on to the next question. How can you create an infinite stream in Java 8? This is a tricky question. There are two methods of doing it. Either you can use generate method or you can use iterate method. This helps to create infinite streams. Both generate and iterate method take supplier as parameter. You need to provide the implementation of supplier with what you want to return. In my case, I am returning hello. So I will get an infinite stream with value hello. Now, how to limit it to 100 values or 200 values? It is way too simple. Just use the limit method. Next, how to remove duplicates from a list using Java 8? Use the intermediate operation distinct. We will move on to the next question. How do you sort the elements in a list using Java 8? Use the intermediate operation sorted. How to group elements in a collection? Collectors.groupingBy is used to group data. Usually, when we are having a list, we perform simple operations like get the list of books by author, get the list of books by category, get the list of employees by city, get the list of employees by department. Then, what is grouping by? Just like how you have done grouping in MySQL, this grouping by will do the same thing. Get the list of books for all the authors. As in, the key is the author name, value should be the list of books. That's what is given over here. I have got a list of books. I want to group by author. I will get the author name as the key. List of books will be values. Again, author name is the key. List of books as values. Get the list of employees belonging to different departments. Where the key is the department name, value will be the list of employees. Okay, this grouping by is a very important and common question asked for people especially with experience. Next, what is the difference between limit and skip? Both limit and skip are intermediate operations. Limit returns the first 10 elements. Skip skips the first 10 elements. Here you can see the output. In the first case, I am limiting to 3. So, it will print 1, 2, 3. In the second case, I am skipping the first 3 elements. So, it will return 4 and 5. Next, what is optional in Java 8 and why it is useful? Optional is like a container. It may either have value or it may be empty. Optional is to avoid null pointer exception. How? When I am querying the database to retrieve one single book object by ID, either I may get value or I may get null. But without doing a null check, if I am trying to call the method on the book object, if the value is available, I will get the value. If the value is not available, I may get null pointer exception. To avoid that, it is mandatory that I need to wrap it in an optional. Now, the book object is available in the optional. You can take it from the optional directly by calling few methods of optional. If the optional is empty, then this also will throw no such element exception. There are few methods of optional which help us to provide with default values also. Get is empty, is present, or else get, or else throw. Or else throw is to check. If the value is available, return the value or throw exception. Or else is, if the value is available, return the value, or else return the default value. Or else get. This takes supplier as parameter. It means that you need to provide the implementation for that. If you want to learn about or else and or else get in detail, you can watch my video on the same. Of course, I will share the link above. Next, when to use parallel streams? This is a tricky question. Do not use parallel streams when your data set is small. If your data set is huge, if you are working with a list of 1000 objects, then it is always a better choice to use parallel streams. What are primitive streams? Primitive streams are specialized streams that are used for working with primitive data types like int, long, short, double. The corresponding stream classes are int stream, long stream, double stream. It uses specialized lambda expressions, and of course it has got its own functional interfaces like int function, double function, int predicate, double predicate in consumer. Primitive streams also supports aggregate operations like sum and average. One example of primitive stream where we are trying to find the sum. One of the most commonly asked interview questions. Name the functional interfaces in Java 8 and their use. They are consumer, supplier, predicate and function. Consumer, it takes input but does not return anything. It is used for printing data. Supplier, it does not take any input but it returns value. Whenever you want to generate infinite streams, then you can use supplier. Predicate, it returns a boolean value. Whenever you want to perform a testing condition, you can use predicate. Function takes an input of one type and returns an output of the same type or a different type. If I am having a list of employees, if I am using function interface, with the help of function interface, I can pass the input as the list of employees. The output from the function interface can be either the list of employee names or the employee cities or their IDs or their salaries. It can be anything. That way function interface is of great use. Next question. How does for each ordered behave differently from for each in parallel streams? This is a tricky question. Usually we work with large data sets. Usually we use parallel streams in case of large data sets. When we need to iterate it, either we can use for each or for each ordered. For each does not guarantee order. For each ordered maintains the original order. So, while working with parallel streams, it is better to use for each ordered. That is the biggest difference between for each and for each ordered. You can see the output for this too. The first one is using for each, the second one is using for each ordered, where the original order is maintained. Next question. What happens when you modify a list while iterating over it using streams? This is a tricky question. This is the same thing what you have learnt in collections. If you are trying to add or remove an element from a list while iterating through it, it will throw concurrent modification exception. That is fail fast behavior. The same thing happens here also. In this case also, streams do not allow modification of source while iterating. If you try to add or remove an element into your source while performing stream operations, it will throw concurrent modification exception. Next question. This is again a tricky question. What is the difference between or else and or else get? This was asked to me by a candidate in a training. I have given a separate video for this for you to completely understand with a hands-on example. Okay. Whenever we are working with optional, the optional will either have a value or it will be empty. The purpose of or else is to provide a default value. Or else takes string as parameter. Or else get also helps to provide a default value. It takes supplier as parameter. If your optional is empty, automatically it will enter into or else get. From or else get you are calling print default method. It is supplier. It will enter here, it will print processing and it will return welcome. Now the output will be welcome. The second scenario is, if my optional is having value, when I call or else, I should not have any effect on or else. But what happens is, because you have given a method, it will automatically enter into the method, print the data in the method, that is perform all the computation within the method and it will return welcome. That is about or else. When I am using or else get, if the optional is having value, it will not even enter into print default method. So see here, or else always evaluates the fallback value even if it is not needed. In this case, it is not required. Still or else will enter into print default, perform all the computation and return back with welcome. But anyways, the output that you will be getting is grade day only. But the process that you have taken over here will be so long. See the output over here, it is printing, processing and then grade day. Coming to or else get, it only evaluates when the value is missing. That is when the optional is empty, avoiding unnecessary computation. In this case, because the optional is having value, it will not even call print default method. You will not see any println statement also. That is the biggest difference between or else and or else get. Or else always evaluates the fallback value. Or else get will call the fallback value only if it is required, only if the optional is empty. Okay, we have seen the most commonly asked and the tricky interview questions of Java 8. Together with that, let me give you two bonus questions. What is the difference between collectors.toMap and collectors.groupingBy? Collectors.toMap will convert your stream into a map. If your key is duplicate, then it will throw an exception. Collectors.groupingBy will group your stream into different keys, each key having a set of values. As in, if I am having a list of books, author 1 list of books, author 2 list of books. If I am working with a list of employees, then I can have department 1 list of employees, department 2 list of employees. Next, what is reduce and how does it work in streams? Reduce is similar to an aggregate operations. Just like how you are calling some method, using reduce you can perform the same operation. Reduce combines elements of a stream into a single value. It takes an identity, an accumulator function to perform the operation and a combiner which is used for parallel processing. So that's it for today. We have covered the most commonly asked and the trickiest interview questions in Java 8 using practical examples. If you are having any other questions relevant to this in Java 8, relevant to daytime APA, you can share it in the comments. We will discuss it in some other video. See you in the next video. Till then, happy coding.